All right. It's time for our last topic of GameFace 223, the grand finale, and a game that I did not play. And in hindsight, I'm like, what was I thinking this week? Why did I play Made of Scare instead of Grounded, which is what we're going to talk about right now. It's Obsidian's next game, second game it's released since it was acquired by Microsoft and Xbox. Obviously, the first was The Outer Worlds, and there's DLC coming for that. And this game came out, and they're working on Avowed, and this studio is the bee's knees. Let's just be honest. But how did Grounded come out? Matt and Mitch have both played a ton of this game, so I'm just going to ask the questions, and they're going to lead the discussion. Matt, how do you like it?
Well, I wouldn't say I've played a ton of it because the game's not out. Like, this is a game preview. This is some kind of weird beta early access thing that you get through Game Pass. And the way it works is you basically get the first hour-ish of the game.
That's it?
But then you can keep playing for as long as you want. Like, you get to the first major kind of story beat that sort of unlocks this like kind of laboratory and a helper robot. And then it basically tells you, hey, there's a lot more stuff coming in this game, but in the meantime, play like daily quests from the robot and tell us what you think and all this stuff. So you can still run around and do things, but this is not a game release. This is early access. This is
like early access.
Yeah, this is a beta, pretty much.
It took Matt and I to have a conversation to realize it, because I thought, because I was playing it on PC Game Pass, I thought I was like, oh, it just didn't come out for PC as a full-fledged game. It was just the preview. But Matt and I were talking, we were both saying, oh, it says preview, because before the game even came out, it said preview under the game. So I was like, oh, it must be an early preview. Matt said he tried to click on it ahead of time, it wouldn't let him in, and then it just never changed. Like, after the release date came out, it just stayed at preview. So I ran into the same thing Matt did, where you get to that story point. I think it took me 3 hours to find that point, because I accidentally went a different direction off the map and didn't find the location you need to find to actually make it to that area.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's kind of a demo, I guess.
Set it up for people who
So the basics is even funnier, because like there isn't any setup. Like,
really,
there's not even
they don't explain how you get shrunken into the size of an ant.
Not at all. You just start the game. You pick your character. There's 4 teenagers you can play as. Only 2 of them have voices right now. And so I picked one of them with the voices, because otherwise,
yeah. Why not?
And you pop in, and basically it drops you right. It's a first person survival game. You basically get dropped right into it. Like you're standing in the shrunken backyard, and behind you is a little like a little makeup case with like 4 humans shaped holes in it, like inside the case. Presumably that's what you were shrunken down and put into, and it dropped and you popped out of it. But there's no setup. There's no cutscene. There's no anything like that.
Literally, just like an objective pops up in the corner to say, like, go do this. Oh, you're thirsty. Go drink some water. And so that's kind of how they teach you the robust of like the survival, the building, the scanning, all the different elements the game has to offer. It's your basic survival game, and I think this is what the game does well. And I think it's just Obsidian in general is one of my. I actually reviewed for SIFTD both Outer Worlds, and I did Citadel Forged with Fire. And I didn't like Forged with Fire as much, and that's a survival fantasy game. But I think what Obsidian does so well is the basics. They have it's easy for anyone to pick up and play and understand the basic mentality of how to work with all the systems in the game. But yet it does have deep systems for people that want that reward, for who dive deep into it. So. Well,
I would say it's probably more like as you get further in the game, you have to use those deeper systems.
Yes.
Because it hasn't happened yet, but like it's hinted by the robot that like, oh, you should build a base because the insects seem to be getting riled up. So I think at some point, like right now, I'm just running around and most things leave me alone that aren't spiders. But I feel like eventually I'm probably going to have to fend off some kind of like Fortnite style like assaults or something, because there's tons of options in building bases and out of this and out of that.
Built his base already.
Yeah, but you can build but nothing so far has really happened with it.
I did have an ant invasion. So like when I was building my base, as soon as I started building it, swarms of ants came in. But I did not. So like the difference between the ants is there's like regular worker ants and they don't bug you. But if you run into a soldier ant that's probably like twice the size, it will be aggressive to you. And so I only ran into one soldier ant that did come to my base. It didn't destroy anything. Unfortunately, this game is pretty buggy. So both a spider and a soldier ant got stuck between some rocks. So fortunate enough for me, I got to like check out some really cool gear because I got spider like poison, I got spider legs and fangs.
That's awesome.
And what you do is you take items and you go to these stations where you scan the resources, and they'll give you they'll give you maps to be able to build things based off those items. So like the way you can build things is you have to keep scanning resources, and then they will tell you, oh, you can build this if you have X, Y, and Z. So that's kind of how you like get the option to start building things. But to be honest, like there's only a few things that will be aggressive towards you. It is a survival game through and through. And I think the nice thing though altogether about it is compared to like what I witnessed with Citadel Forge of Fire was when I die, my resources are left to where I died. But in Citadel Forge of Fire, if you try to go get it and you die again, you lose it all. Here, you can die as many times as you want trying to get your resources back, which if, say, like a spider kills you, that spider's going to still be there by the time you go get there to go get your backpack again. So that is helpful to be able to have unlimited tries to get your stuff back because you can collect a lot of resources in this game.
What is
the combat is not good, really. It's rough. It's about on par with your usual survival game combat, I guess. But like it's more about navigating the environment and sort of like making yourself self-sufficient, which is slowly starting to happen. But like I'm not going to probably play this too much more because I assume you're going to get everything wiped by the time they decide to do whatever final version is coming, whenever that may be. Like. It is, but like what's there is pretty solid. Like the foundation is good, and it feels like a cool like world to play in. They play around with it a lot. There's little cameos of things. There's a Battletoads toy like sitting around at one place, and I like some of this. Like some of the mechanics as they sort of slowly reveal themselves are cool. Like you have to drink and eat, but like it's not like oppressive. It doesn't happen all the time. Like you basically got to get a good drink and a good meal in once a day in the game.
I'm okay with that.
But like, you can drink out of like puddles, but it'll kind of poison you in the way that it's not clean water. And the way that does it pulls down your hunger. So you fill up your thirst, but you lose more hunger. So you got to eat more. And then if you want to find pure water, which there's like ways to get that to happen moving forward as you can craft more things. But early on, you basically have to look for dew, which collects on the ends of grass and stuff. You just go up and whack it and whack the grass and it falls down and you drink it as it falls. Like there's some fun like kind of things like that. I've stayed friends with a lot of the worker ants by feeding them. So if like food spoils or something, or you have extra sap or extra aphid honeydew, like you can just drop it in front of the ants and they'll come up and eat it. And,
I never tried that. That's cool.
So they can kind of keep it. I've actually, when stuff is spoiled or whatever, I've actually scattered it around the outside of my base and like had the ants come clean it up for me. So that's kind of fun. I've seen like a fair number of ants at once moving around. Like I think they did that real well. The ants are actually really cute, I think. But
spiders are scary. Of the game? Like, is it to return to normal size, or is it to just dominate the backyard?
Well, no, the ostensible objective is to get grown back to normal size again. But but the way you kind of do it is you have like there's like tech from the scientists that did this like scattered everywhere. So like you have to like kind of it's kind of plays out so far sort of like a mystery. Like go figure out what this is. It's like, okay, play with this, turn this thing on. Oh, you turn it on, but it doesn't quite work because this is blocked and that's not right. Go over there and figure out what's causing that. You fix that, then does this, and then it causes something else to happen. It's like, oh, look at this, something blew up over here. Go figure out what blew up. So it kind of like breadcrumb trails you through, and the way the survival mechanics and crafting the different things works is like, as you get led to the different areas, there's things you have to overcome. You're basically like at some point they force you to kind of go through spider territory. So you're going to have to figure out how to protect yourself from these spiders, or at least avoid them properly. And that's kind of how it rolls.
I mean, right now, are spiders just a death sentence? Can you not kill them?
Early on, they are. I mean, you can kill them. Like I killed one of the big orb weavers, but mostly I just avoid them because it's awkward. I find it awkward to fight most things. I don't have like really ranged weaponry because I haven't gotten the resources to make bow and arrows tremendously in enough quantities to kill a spider, essentially. And the combat, I think, is really clunky, and like the healing is incremental. So basically, you don't have time to sit back and do that and hit the menu and do this and
well, because everything runs when you're running the menu, the game is still running in time. So
but even the shortcut menu, like it's too slow.
It's too slow. Yes, I agree for sure. So there's too many options on the wheel. It's not because I think there's 16 options in regards to the wheel. So
that's a lot of pizza slices.
That's a lot of pizza slices to be really specific on the location of your stick. Basically, is what I think what makes it difficult.
There's 8 on the Xbox.
8. Okay, it's 8 then. I know there's a lot, but I will
still
say,
a lot.
But I will say I do love the building in this. The one thing I do like in the building that it offers that I don't think it offers in other games, it offers something, and they'll see it in the B-roll in just a second, that it offers like a blueprint in a sense of if you pick a certain, like I picked a certain wall I liked, and what I can do is I can place that wall all over the place without building it. So it'll be just this blue transparent blueprint basically saying like, oh, this is what it's going to look like when you put all your walls side by side. And you can leave it there forever.
Yeah, you can basically build your base.
You can build your base without building your base.
Out of ghost shapes, and then as you get the materials, you come up
it just populates the structure.
No, you go up to it and you hold the X button, and it builds it out of what you got in your inventory. So it's
I like that.
Yeah, it works pretty well, and it works for everything you craft in place. Cool. And you can break it all down and get the resources back and put it somewhere else, and like it's very forgiving. It's not a survival game that's a dick to you. Is probably the best way to put it. Is like I didn't feel like it wanted to kill me most of the time.
Yeah, for sure.
It's giving you leeway. I mean, you can now build even if you don't have the materials. You know, if you're tired of like the other parts of the game, you can just go build stuff even if you don't have the stuff to do it yet.
Yeah, and I think the other part is. The building is just great. I think that is probably the best part of the building. Is probably the best building.
A cool feature for sure.
But
Bethesda could take some cues here.
Yeah, for sure.
Like it really feels Fallout. I don't know. I don't want to reduce Obsidian to just constantly like trying to show up Bethesda, but like they really have taken sort of like how Bethesda sort of like rudimentarily sort of put construction in like Hearthstone and Fallout 4, and like. This is how it should be. Like this is how it should work. And even the smallest like way of like kind of like constructing like a second story on things is easier than anything you do in that regard in any of the Bethesda games. So like I really there does seem to be a little bit of like, hey, we can do that better in terms of kind of I wonder if Obsidian and maybe Microsoft in general, now that they paid money for them, is sort of like, we're going to make you into the next Bethesda.
I mean, they kind of are already.
Yeah, I mean, you're up there.
They're putting out games more often than frickin' Bethesda. Bethesda has multiple studios, and look at what Obsidian's doing on its own. It's crazy.
I know Matt briefly touched about the combat and saying it's not that great, and I would agree with him as well. But how the combat basically works is it's a basic hack and slash along with blocking. And the biggest thing is you can block normally, but you have a meter in regards to how much blocking you can do before you're staggered. And you can stagger some enemies. I think it's if you hit them in the head. I think if I hit ants in the head, I can stagger an ant. I know that.
Are there parries or anything like that?
Yeah.
There is a parry that does nullify all damage. The timing on that is really hard to do, especially because most of the enemies like to like hang back and then they'll like make a noise and then they're going to do a ramming attack to basically like hit your face. And it's really hard depending on which creature, the speed of which that ram comes in. And so it's just really hard to time at most of the time, that sometimes you miss it, and if you miss it, you get knocked down and then you're basically dead. because it takes a couple seconds to get up. By that time, it's going to ram you a second time, and it's going to kill you. The ants run in packs. That becomes more difficult if you're going to run into an ant. I ran into a stink bug, which is what you're about to see right now, and it shoots poison from its body, so you got to keep its distance from there. Each enemy kind of offers its unique...
Everyone's asking if there's raid in the game.
Raid?
Yeah, like the bug repellent, the bug killer raid.
There is bug. There is
there?
Okay, so I ran into... It's not in this B-roll, but so I explored the entire map. I went all the way around, and even I found areas where it has light up construction zones saying like under construction. So I'm assuming when the full game comes out, this map will be bigger. It's pretty big, but I think it definitely could be bigger. I did run into a zone that was filled with raid, basically, and I couldn't get in there.
Like spray cans?
No,
or just like gas in the air.
It was a giant container I could see in the background, and then I could see the gas being dispersed in that area. So I tried to go in, and I couldn't get in there.
It was an exterminator, probably.
Yeah, it must have been. So
I wonder if that happens. If like you can like get an exterminator to come in, and this giant like comes into the yard with this huge hose that's like spraying everything down.
But the story, I do want to say that the only thing Matt missed probably about the story would be is like they did hint at basically saying that they are part of an experiment, like that this experiment has happened before and that this is like another round of it. And so the robot is going to feed you missions, and that's going to be in the near future. But besides that, it's basically surviving and building and whatever you expect in any survival game. But like it is nice to see bug life and how comparison it is to actual bugs in reality, because the flies are freaking annoying, not just in like real life. They're like annoying in the stupid game. Life. Like my character was
Have you come across any mosquitoes or anything yet?
No mosquitoes, but just
what
a
about
fly.
Bees? Have you fought a bee yet?
No bee. The only flying enemy I've ran into is the fly. And and literally my character was saying, am I wearing fly cologne or something like that?
I've seen flies and I've seen gnats.
Oh, I've not seen
What about praying mantis?
No.
Nothing that the final boss?
Not yet. But it is cool to like check out the actual bug life. So like in regards to like I went into an anthill, and that was kind of cool, even though I ran into a soldier ant right away. So I ran the other way because that was within my first like 30 minutes of playing, so I didn't have any armor or anything. But you do build yourself. You can build armor to customize your character a bit. It depends on what creature you kill to get those things. So there's like ant armor. There's
beetle
shields armor. There's no.
There's a bunch of things.
Yet, but
there's like you can make a lot of stuff out of like acorns and dry grass and all that. The one thing that annoys me about that is stuff. Your armor still takes up inventory slots.
Yes,
which I think is bullshit. If I'm wearing it, it doesn't use up inventory.
It
even has like its own location on the menu to like show it's up, it's equipped. So it's like it should take it off that slot and put it right in that menu. But even
I think there'll be a lot of tweaking going. I think the parry timing will be tweaked. I think a lot of the inventory stuff will be tweaked. The inventory is pretty forgiving right now, but they could be better.
That's what I was going to say. It's. I think it took 4 hours for me to be full on my inventory, and even so, like I built myself some stuff to like put in a basket, or you can build things to put your grass and stack them together, or put your, I don't know what the other thing is. Weeds. I think the weeds.
So now that you guys have played this, and it's shockingly, it ended up being a far less finished version than I think any of us anticipated. Are you excited to play more whenever they release a more complete version? Or did you get enough from this already?
I mean, this isn't really my kind of game in general. Like, I'm not a huge survival crafting person for this sort of stuff. I'll keep an eye on it. Like, as long as it's there in Game Pass, like I might as well keep up with it if they do major updates or something. I do like sort of the realization of the tiny world that they've done. It works well. It looks nice. Like there's kind of nice surprises in how things interact with each other here and there. The insects are well done. The ants are adorable. But I'm somebody who names the spiders in my backyard. So like, you can maybe not go by me. I'm not using the arachnophobia setting on the options. Let's put it that way.
Isn't there like something you can toggle on or off?
Yeah. There's 5 levels of arachnophobia. setting. So
really?
You either a full spider, or as you drop down, it first it removes legs, and then it removes the fangs, and then in like the fifth highest setting, it's just like two floating blobs with eyes. It still behaves the same way, but like it just doesn't look like a spider anymore.
Which if you want
accessibility options.
Which if you want to super cheat on that, like if you just go to higher ground, it can't reach you. That's like most of the enemies. If you just like stand on top of a large rock, they can't reach you. So it's like that's the only probably hiccup is like I would like to see
one of the pro tips in our survival guide in HQ today.
Yeah, for sure. I would and to answer your question, I probably would say I might come back to it. I'd be interested to play with other people. To like invade an anthill would be super exciting and fun. If you're able to get a crew together to do so, I think it could be really effective in building the bases. And I think if even like the insects attack your base, I think that would be interesting. I think they have a lot to play with. It's just how do they execute it from here is going to determine if I will continue to play this game. But I think if people like survival games, I think they'll like this one. It's a nice twist that you just don't see, like a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids with insects. Like you just don't get that, and I think people would definitely enjoy it if they like this genre.
$1. Just get Game Pass for $1 and you can play it if you want. But keep in mind, both guys said that it's only a couple hours long. So you're not going to get a lot of
go as long as you want to play it. It's just what you're going to run out of, structured content.
Fun things to do after
a while.
I
went 4 hours and I basically don't feel like I need to go back. I feel like I did everything. So that's how much time.
You mean until they update it with more content? Correct. Or you mean you're just good? Period.
No, again, it depends on what they do with the rest of it, and if there's actually like story missions, I'd like to see how they do with those things.
I mean, I assumed that there would be in this game.
Well, they hinted at more in the future, and that's what they're planning on. So
I'd like to see an opening cutscene.
Yeah. I mean, I'm guessing they will have one of those in the final game.
Yeah,
they have to. You have to set up the story a little.
Like there's hints in places, like there's audio logs that you pick up, and it kind of hints as to what the scientist was doing and where the robots came from. But it's just like. It's all very whimsical, and it's just sort of you're clearly playing a beta, or maybe it's functional, but it's not the full game. It's just a little weird because like I noticed it said game preview on it because I've been checking periodically, sort of to make sure I didn't miss it because I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention to this game, and like a couple weeks ago when I checked for it, I saw it said game preview on the thing on Game Pass for this time. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I wonder what that is. And then you look at the little text on it, and it was just like, this is a preliminary version of the game, and more will be coming, but it's a sneak preview, and we'll get your feedback. I'm like, okay, that's interesting, because back when they did like the interview segment, like back in like March or April, it really felt like they were implying that this was the release date of the game. And somewhere along
now
those
we
lines,
know how they got the Outer Worlds done and this quote unquote done, and Avowed is in the oven already.
Well,
it's because this game isn't done.
Well, at the Xbox game showcase, the trailer is called launch trailer.
Yeah.
Like it's like that's what you call it when you launch the game.
It was in dossier for this month. Look, you say you're launching a game, we're going to treat it like you launched a game. And that's what they did. And that's also why we discussed it on GameFace today. That's the way they're going to approach it. That's how we're going to approach it.